You're listening to The Bible Guys, a podcast where a couple of friends talk about the Bible in fun and practical ways.
Hey everybody, welcome to The Bible Guys.
Woo-hoo!
We are The Bible Guys.
The Bible Guy.
And by the way, we would love for you to...
I'm the Bible Guy.
Oh, wow. Deep, growly voice.
Kind of like Batman.
Right. Oh, I'm Batman? I'm Batman.
Yeah.
Yeah. By the way,
Bible
did you know that was made popular by Michael Keaton in 1989?
Yes.
Yes. Anyway, I was going to say, please do us a favor and share the Bible Guys link.
Yeah.
With somebody. Hey, I found this link. I found this Bible study, this Bible podcast. I'm going to invite you to it. We would love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be cool. And it's always amazing that you listen. And if you like it, maybe your friends will like it too.
Yeah, for sure.
And it'll help us out a lot.
Right. Because we want to reach more people.
Yes. And we're all about helping people out. It's not just a one-way street, right? They help us. We want to help them.
Right.
And we want to give them the best advice we can give. And so we're scouring the internet
Yes.
for the best news and the best suggestions. And so today we have a life hack. Life hacks are super helpful.
Yeah, for sure they are.
Right? Because you get the right life hack and you can it gives you an advantage that just makes life better.
Yeah. You know what, Jeff? You are building this thing up.
Yeah. So
people are dying. They're on the edge of their seats.
So the Babylon Bee is one of the best sources of information on the internet.
Right.
It's a satire website. And here it is right here. Here's a life hack for you. And we're bringing it to you. Couple of pastors, you can trust it right here. Life hack. Volunteer for parking lot ministry, and you'll never have to hear another sermon for the rest of your days.
There it is.
What?
That is a brilliant life hack.
Okay, check out this sweet life hack, my church brethren, or should I say faith hack. Yes, it's true. If you volunteer for the parking lot ministry at your local church, then you'll never have to hear another sermon again. Let's break down how the hack works. First, you sign up for the parking lot ministry. Then you go to church on Sunday, but instead of sitting through a sermon, you get to stand outside. There are no sermons outside. We checked. All you have to do is help people park and then walk old ladies to the church entrance. And you get to wear a vest.
Cool. I like that. That's cool. Hey, no sermons, bonus vest.
But wait, aren't sermons good? Sure. But they're also long and boring sometimes. Plus, it's so pretty outside right now. You can get out in the fresh air and serve the Lord and get out of heaven to sit through the sermon all in one fell stroke. What a deal.
What a deal.
So go outside, get some sunshine, and get those traffic batons waving. Then, when the church elders explain that you're supposed to only volunteer to be in the parking lot once per month and otherwise be inside church, just pretend to be deaf and run away. You're welcome.
That is so funny.
Isn't that great?
Just pretend to be deaf and run away.
So there you go, people. We're helping you out. That's what we're all about. We are about elevating people's experiences.
Well, you know what? For all the life hacks, just come right here, and we'll get them from Babylon Bee and pass them on to you with gladness.
And you know who else wrote lots of life hacks?
Solomon. Solomon did.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we have spent a bunch of time in Proverbs before.
That's actually a great transition because they are life hacks.
They're all life hacks.
Yeah, they're all like ways to, if we implemented all the wisdom of Proverbs,
that's right,
we would live a pretty darn good life.
Pretty good life. That's right.
Yep.
So Solomon wrote all these things. He was the wisest king that ever lived. And
wisest person who ever lived or will ever live.
That's right.
Yep. According to God.
And I think apart from Jesus. But yeah.
Well, I said person. I didn't say man God.
Well, he was a person. So anyways, but other than Jesus, yeah, he's the wisest man that ever lived. And so he wrote down all these little things, and you could put them on posters, a lot of them. They're like just slogans, good ideas. And Hezekiah, when he was cleaning out the temple, he finds a bunch more of these things, apparently that were unpublished or something. And so yesterday we read in chapter 25, and it's 25, 26, 27, 28, and 29 are the ones that Hezekiah found. Yeah. So in chapter 26, we'll just read some of these. He says, honor is no more associated with fools than snow with summer or rain with harvest. Like a fluttering sparrow or a darting swallow, an undeserved curse will not land on its intended victim. Guide a horse with a whip, a donkey with a bridle, and a fool with a rod to his back.
Wow.
Woo! Solomon ain't messing around.
No.
Don't answer the foolish arguments of fools, or you'll become as foolish as they are. Be sure to answer the foolish arguments of fools, or they'll become wise in their own estimation. So Solomon goes, hey, it's kind of situational here. Trusting a fool to convey a message is like cutting off one's feet or drinking poison. A proverb in the mouth of a fool is as useless as a paralyzed leg. Honoring a fool is as foolish as tying a stone to a slingshot. A proverb in the mouth of a fool is like a thorny branch brandished by a drunk. An employer who hires a fool or a bystander is like an archer who shoots at random. As a dog returns to his vomit, so a fool repeats his foolishness. Ew. There's more hope for fools than for people who think they are wise. The lazy person claims there's a lion in the road. Yes, I'm sure there's a lion out there. I quote that sometimes. Yeah. My wife, I grew up with the Proverbs. We read the Proverbs.
Yeah.
My wife would be like, "Oh, we should probably go and get those chores done in the backyard." I'm like, "Oh, I think there's a lion in the streets." And I'm positive there's a lion in the streets.
That's so funny.
It's a little bit of Bible humor there in my house. It says, let me see. As a door swings back and forth on its hinges, so the lazy person turns over in bed. Lazy people take food in their hand, but don't even lift it to their mouth. Lazy people consider themselves smarter than 7 wise counselors. Interfering in someone else's argument is as foolish as yanking a dog's ears. Just as damaging as a madman shooting a deadly weapon is someone who lies to a friend and then says, "I was only joking." Ooh. Fire goes out without wood, and quarrels disappear when gossip stops. A quarrelsome person starts fights as easily as hot embers light charcoal or fire lights wood. Rumors are dainty morsels that sink deep into one's heart. Smooth words may hide a wicked heart, just as a pretty glaze covers a clay pot. People may cover their hatred with pleasant words, but they're deceiving you. They pretend to be kind, but don't believe them. Their hearts are full of many evils. While their hatred may be concealed by trickery, their wrongdoing will be exposed in public. If you set a trap for others, you'll get caught in it yourself. If you roll a boulder down on others, it'll crush you instead. A lying tongue hates its victims, and flattering words cause ruin. Ooh, man, there's some good ones in there.
I'll tell you what, I wouldn't want to be a fool.
Yeah,
in Solomon's eyes.
He's taking shots at fools, isn't he?
Yeah. I remember going to church one time. You remember the old court jesters? You know, they have those funny hats.
Yes, yeah.
You know, the funny hats, the court jesters, right?
With the ding-a-ling-a-lings on the little bells the 5...
I went to this large church for this conference, and I remember pulling in, and they were doing a series on a Sunday. We stayed for the Sunday, and it was called Foolproof.
Oh.
Right? And it was all about the fools of the in Proverbs. And but here's the best part. Everybody in the parking lot, speaking of our opening segment, all the volunteers were wearing court jester hats.
Oh, that's a good idea.
And I remember thinking to myself, like, what is this? Why are they wearing court jester hats? And it was because they would call it like a fool. Yeah. That they were actually called fools.
Right. That's right.
For the king.
That's right.
And so then you finally got in and you're like, what is with all these court jester hats? And then the logo said foolproof. And it was a court jester hat was the logo. It was brilliant.
Yeah. And it was it a series on Proverbs?
Yes.
Oh man, that's great.
Yeah, it was a series on everything.
I totally want to rip that off.
I know, right?
That's great.
Yeah, it's really good.
God gave you eyes to plagiarize.
Oh, wow. I've never even heard that.
You've never heard that?
No.
Oh, yeah. Ed Young says that. Yeah. Ed Young
Give you eyes to plagiarize. That's really funny.
Solomon says there's no new idea under the sun.
That's right. Yeah. That's right.
So I love there's a bunch of them, but you know, when he's taking shots at fools, he's so frustrated with fools, clearly.
Yeah.
And then, you know, there's rarely ever a time that the Bible calls followers of God fools. So it's possible for us to be foolish. Right. And so this is always the warning to us not to act like fools. But he says, you know, they guide a horse with a whip and a donkey with a bridle and a fool with a rod to his back. Yeah. You know, he's feeling like, hey, these people, they're a foolish person who refuses to be taught. You find out he feels like fools they're not willing to learn. They're prideful in what they think they already know. They just stir up trouble. They spout off stuff that they don't know what they're talking about. You know, he spells out throughout his writings what fools are like. They waste their money. They waste. They're not trustworthy, right? All those things. And he's like, the only way you can do it, the only way you can manage them is the same way you have to manage a horse or a donkey, right? You crack him with a whip. You put a bridle in his mouth. You have to control him. A fool has to be controlled because he can't be trusted.
Yeah,
and that's really rough. But then the next one is the one that always used to confuse me, and my dad explained this to me. It says, "Don't answer the foolish arguments of fools, or you'll become as foolish as they are. Be sure to answer the foolish arguments of fools, or they'll become wise in their own estimation." And it's interesting because the one says, "Don't answer them," and the very next verse says, "Answer them." It feels like it's disagreeing with itself, right?
Right.
And my dad said, "Well, what's the one constant? Whether you answer them or you don't answer them, they're still fools."
Right.
Right? They're still fools. So it's really usually about what's at stake there. So if you jump in and you just decide you're going to try to argue with a fool, most of the time there's no upside to it.
Right.
But then he says the only real upside would be if you can put that fool in his place.
Yeah.
Then he realizes he's not as, that you're sending a message. Listen, you don't know what you're talking about.
Right.
And so there is that one piece, but for the most part, he's still a fool. It means your argument's not going to change him. Right. So you're just wasting your time.
Yeah. I almost wonder if, like when I read it, do you know how I read it? Don't answer the foolish arguments of fools, or else you'll become as foolish as they are. I was reading that as the word arguments, the operative word being arguments, meaning like don't get involved in the minutia of the arguments because it's not going to make a difference, right? You're going to just get caught up in the foolishness, right? But then when it says, "Be sure to answer the foolish arguments of fools, or else they'll become wise in their own estimation," I almost wonder if that is saying, "Hey, don't get caught up in the minutia of the arguments, but make sure to give them at least an answer to let them know that they're being foolish." Right. So, and now it doesn't say that,
right?
But that's actually how I read it. I read it like, don't get too caught up in it because it's pointless, but make sure to let them know that they're being foolish, or else they'll walk away from the conversation somehow in your silence, thinking that they've won or that they're superior in some way. Right. So in other words, hey, you're going to ramble on and on. I'm just going to look at you. I'm just going to say, "Wow, you've got a lot to learn." Yeah. Right. Yep. And then walk away, and they'll be like, "Okay." And those standing around will say, "Well, he thinks he's a fool." Yep. So maybe it didn't mean that, but
it could be part of that. Yeah.
Yeah, it could be.
I also think that it's funny. So the two things that just seem almost intolerable to Solomon is foolish people and lazy people.
Yes.
The
lazy. There's a lot there.
There's
right?
as much about lazy here, right? The lazy person claims there's a lion in the street. As the door swings back and forth on its hinges, the lazy person turns over in bed. Yeah. Right? Lazy people take food in their hand. They don't even lift it to their mouth.
Don't even lift it to their mouth. They consider themselves smarter than 7 wise counselors. Yeah. I think that people, all you got to do is watch the internet for 10 minutes. Yeah. And you're going to find somebody who thinks they're like, they don't have a lot of credibility. How about that? Is that a polite way to say it? Yep. Right? They don't have a credibility at all. And yet they're just speaking as if they have so much wisdom. And they're like this average Joe person who wants a platform on the internet.
And then the other thing that Solomon talks about all the time is just words.
Yep.
How we use our words, the things we say. And then I love how rumors are like dainty morsels, right? People love spilling the tea, don't they? They love that. Ooh, tell me something I didn't know.
Look at all these rumors.
Right? It's smooth words he's talking about. They're like just a pretty glaze over a clay pot.
And there's that word picture again. Have you ever been involved in pottery? Yeah. Where you can take a clay pot and it's rough, it's coarse, it'll chip, and then you cover it with a glaze and it looks smooth and shiny and slick. And what he's saying is, and by the way, you can't even peel it off. You can't chip it off. I mean, it sticks to that clay pot, and it's really, really hard to even chip that glaze off. And he says that's exactly what smooth words are. They can hide a wicked heart in the same way. You'd never know.
And then fire goes out without wood.
Yeah.
Such a good one. Corals disappear when gossip stops.
And by the way, I've experienced that. Mm-hmm. I've experienced staff members, and I'm not just talking about one single church I've worked at. I'm talking about I've worked at 4 different churches, and I think 3 of those 4, I've experienced when a staff member who is not very good with their mouth, they have rumors, they cause strife. They're just the kind of people who complain or they're negative. When that person leaves, it's like taking a log off the fire.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
It's like all of a sudden it's like, wow, all the fuel has gone. It has left the building.
Yep.
Because this one person has left the staff.
Yeah.
You've experienced that, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's true when you decide that you're gonna execute the gossip. It's amazing how quickly the fire goes out. The heat, it just dials back the temperature all the time. And the gossip, a lot of times gossip comes from people trying to guess the meaning of a thing or trying to guess that there's something behind a thing, right? You say good morning and somebody who is just naturally a gossip is like, what did he mean by good morning?
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And you're just saying, I'm just saying good morning. But a gossip loves to try to find secondary meanings. And then they love to try to point that out to other people. Or a gossip loves to find a little nugget of information somebody doesn't have, and knowing that it's going to hurt some people and say, hey, listen, I'm not trying to hurt you, but you should know. Mm-hmm. Right? That kind of thing. And it just keeps the fire going, and it just increases the temperature and makes everything harder. Everything's harder. So there's that.
What's so funny is I can't even recall, when's the last time, besides on last Sunday, when's the last time you heard a sermon exclusively on gossip? Sometimes you can go years.
Well, in the spirit of transparency, I wasn't even really listening to last weekend's message. No,
wow,
I'm joking. It was a really good message. You did a really good job.
Oh, I was going to say you're kidding because you actually wrote feedback.
Yeah. It was good. I wrote feedback.
I delivered, and you actually gave feedback.
It was good.
But
yeah, not very often. You don't hear a lot of messages about gossip.
And yet
you hear people mad about gossip.
Right. But the Bible does talk a lot about gossip specifically. Right? It's not just the power of your tongue and the power of your words, which that was also a portion of the message, but gossip specifically, right?
Yeah.
And it's those things that you're talking about in any work culture, in any family culture, right? There's going to be people like that in there. And what we said at the very beginning of the message is we said that gossip could damage your reputation as much as it can damage the person that you're spreading it about, right?
Yeah, right.
That gossip actually ruins relationships. That gossip actually grieves your heavenly Father. That's what the Bible says. Right. That it'll actually hurt your relationship with your heavenly Father. There's just a lot of things that the Bible warns about gossip, and it doesn't seem dangerous on the surface, but it really is. Yeah. If you pay attention to what the Bible says about it, it feels good to exchange gossip, to deal in the currency of gossip for a lot of people that love it. But the Bible actually says it's sinful. Yeah. And it's hurtful.
Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't do any good. It only hurts.
Right.
So I think that there's two of them I want to talk about. But verse 17, interfering in someone else's argument is as foolish as yanking a dog's ears.
Right.
And, I've read that some hundreds of times. I know that passage. I've told other people, don't get involved in that. Somebody say, hey, this person's arguing with this person. I know the answer. I should. And I'll say, it's just like you're going to grab a hold of that dog's ears, and it's the fastest way to get bit, right? You grab a dog's ears, try to control him, he'll bite you. So just don't do it. It's going to hurt you. It's not going to help them. It's going to hurt you. But I had some people that I deeply cared about, some friends that were not doing good to each other. And they were constantly kind of undercutting the other. Okay. And they were my friends. Mm-hmm. Well, then the one realized the other was doing it. They started butting heads pretty hard. So I thought, here's a moment. I'll step in. I'll offer some help. It winds up blowing up in my face. It gets so bad. They both turn on me. And now they are dear friends, and neither one of them can stand me. Wow. I wasn't even involved in any of it.
Right.
But suddenly their argument and their undercutting each other seemed so little. Yeah. And they were mad at me, and they still are. Like, one of them will talk to me on occasion. The other one won't talk to me at all. Won't just at all. And I'm like, what did I do? Right? Well, you know what I did? I grabbed the dog by its ears. Right. That's what I did. It was so dumb. And so sometimes it's just worth it to stay out of it. It's none of my business. I'm going to stay out of it.
Okay, movie quote. From where I come from, nothing brings people together like giving them a good common enemy.
Oh, I don't know.
It's wicked.
Wicked. Okay.
Jeff Goldblum said it, The Wizard of Oz.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And that's actually sort of like a foreshadowing of them creating the Wicked Witch.
Right.
Blah, blah, blah.
And then the other one that really jumps out at me is that verse 18, just as damaging as a madman shooting a deadly weapon is someone who lies to a friend and then says, I was only joking. I don't think it's saying like a madman bursting in and shooting up a place.
Right.
I think it's talking about the drunk in town, walks out of the saloon and he's just shooting off in the air. That right? It's reckless.
Right.
Is the madman here, not insane. I don't think it's talking about some kind of insanity of, I'm trying to go hurt people. I think it's a recklessness.
Well, it doesn't talk about the intent here.
Right.
Right. It just says like somebody who's not altogether shouldn't have a gun.
Right.
That's all it's saying.
But that crazy man going in and trying to shoot up a place, he's not going to say, I was only joking.
Right.
Right. But the madman, the drunk stumbling out of the saloon in a cowboy movie, shooting off in the sky. He's like, I'm just having a little bit of fun, Sheriff. Right. That's what he's doing. That's what that's
Sheriff.
That's what he's gonna do.
That's so good.
And I think it's the same. I one time was not paying attention. I don't know if you knew this, but I haven't always been as attentive and focused as I am now.
Oh, say it again. I wasn't paying attention.
And so sometimes, accidents, I've always been pretty accident prone in my life. And as I've gotten older, I've become particularly focused when it comes to fire. I like to hunt. I'm a hunter. Mm-hmm. So when it comes to firearms or when I have my bow or I'm with somebody with a crossbow or something, very, very focused on that. I'm always high level, trying to make, hey, don't point the gun. Is that loaded, unloaded, whatever.
You become your dad, right?
Yeah.
The parent, the grandparent. Yep.
But I did accidentally one time have a gun go off.
Wow.
And back when I was substantially younger, and I had forgotten that the gun was loaded, and it was I was out hunting, and all I was doing was moving it from one place to another, but I was reckless in that moment, and the firearm went off, and it wasn't in the direction of anybody. There wasn't anybody around. It wasn't big, but I remember in that moment, there's a life-changing moment for me. That recklessness and overconfidence could have gotten somebody killed, right? And it's kind of the same thing. When we're just going around with difficult words and then thinking we can patch it up with I was just joking kind of thing, it's that foolish. It's that reckless. It's that potentially, it's not a guarantee it's going to do harm, but the potential for harm is pretty high, right? And so I read that, it always reminds me again, I was only joking is not a legitimate excuse to hurt people.
Hey, I'm just going to share this just for fun, but have you ever seen fireworks? I don't know if you bought or played with fireworks or messed around with fireworks, but have you ever seen a smoke bomb? It's a round thing. Yeah. So you light it and you throw it somewhere and it just starts smoking, right? And it's always round.
Yes,
it's colorful, right?
Yeah.
You know what's also round and colorful?
What's that?
A cherry bomb.
Oh, no.
And so I was holding one. I said, hey, this is a smoke bomb. I go, watch this. And I held it in my hand. A cherry bomb is a half the strength of an M80.
Oh, no.
Right?
Yeah.
And so it's like, it's designed to
blow stuff up.
Mm-hmm. So I'm holding a cherry bomb, thinking it's a smoke bomb. And thank God that I actually was holding it because I didn't want the smoke to get on me. So I was just holding it, like balancing it like this, right? Yeah. And so I said, "Oh, watch this," and I lit it. And if I would have held it, or even probably placed it on my palm, right? But I was holding it on my fingertips, and I said, "Watch this," lit it, and just held it like this, right this close to my face. Smoke bomb. That was a smoke bomb, and it blew up right in my face.
Oh my goodness!
And there was a piece that actually flew, and it hit my eyelid. And it scalded my eyelid, and it was burned shut.
Oh no!
And it was it was really bad. But my fingers were all intact, and it was probably one of the most foolish things I've ever done.
Ooh,
it was really rough.
Yeah. It's the same thing. A madman shooting a deadly weapon.
Right.
A madman lighting a deadly cherry bomb.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So that's really it. Is we need to not be. We need to be more intentional and not thinking that we can just rely on our excuses of I was just joking.
Right.
That's it.
That's great. Well, there's a lot of wisdom in there. Hey, don't be lazy and don't be foolish.
And watch your words.
That's a great place to end. And we will see you tomorrow on the Bible Guys.